So this weekend, or part of last week, Samuel discovered the joys of chocolate mixed with peanut butter. He got one of those like Reese's, like eggs, like Easter eggs. Mm-hmm. That's, got the chocolate and peanut butter, obviously. And he's obsessed. He loves it.
Yeah.
It is now his new favorite. Hates Smarties, turns out.
What?
Yeah, Steven does too, so I'm not totally...
What?
He says they taste like chalk.
Oh, I love the Smarties.
Samuel tried to feed the Smarties to the dog.
Oh.
I'll bring you his Smarties, okay? We'll make a donation.
Okay. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Those are his favorite now.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite Easter candy? Because let's be real.
I used to love Peeps. I used to love them. I don't.
What happened?
I mean, they're fine. I still kind of like them.
Okay.
I would eat them if someone gave me a Peep. But
Steven loves Peeps.
I used to be kind of like, and then there's like these. They're not the Cadbury eggs. They're like little chalky sort of Cadbury eggs. I can't remember what brand they are. I don't know. They're good. The jelly bean. I think it's Starburst maybe.
Oh, Starburst has the best jelly beans.
Those are great. But this year, Hannah Wednesday was the last day for the fast.
Mm-hmm. Your Lenten
and I
fast.
came home and Miley gave me this bag of Ghirardelli chocolate filled with caramel in the shape of little bunnies. Oh. And they're just like, little tiny things. Mm-hmm. And I could throw
just
them back.
Knock them
they
back.
were so good. So those win the day for me
Nice.
this year. The Ghirardelli.
Yeah, I think you're saying it right.
Caramel chocolates. Kudos to my wife.
Nice.
And daughter.
Well done.
Yeah.
I'm obsessed with the eggs, the Cadbury eggs.
What's the filling of choice?
Like the regular, sort of nougat ones.
Okay.
Like with the
kind of cream.
and
yeah.
Yeah. The regular and then
because they do like a chocolate cream and a caramel cream. You're not playing that game.
I want the original.
The OG
Mm-hmm.
Cadbury.
It's so good. One year, Steven gave me a giant egg, like plastic egg, and inside was just a crap ton. I think is the actual technical term.
Yeah.
Of Cadbury eggs.
Yeah.
Lasted me a while, months. It was delightful.
That's good.
Yeah, he really likes Peeps.
Yeah.
And I think they're stupid.
Wow, that's okay.
That was strong, wasn't it? I'm
the
sorry.
Death of Judgment happened like a few weeks ago, so I don't know.
Also, we have friends that go to this church who I said the word stupid in front of their kid, and he was like,
oh, yeah.
Because that is a bad word. And so I'm just going to apologize to that young man and say I'm sorry that I said it. And
can I give one more candy shout out?
Yeah.
The ducks and bunnies, I think they're sweet tarts.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Really?
I felt like I knew all about the Easter candy.
I remember my U.S. history teacher, Mr. Stewart. Shout out, Mr. Stewart.
That's good. I'm sure he really appreciates that.
Yeah, right. Anyway, he was all about that. He's like the after Easter candy sale.
So we need to definitively Halloween candy versus Easter candy. Because I'm saying all day long Easter candy is the best.
I'm trying to think. What is Halloween candy?
Just like regular candy.
It's just like regular candy, right? There's no
Yeah, but then
trying to think, is there any that are like candy corn?
Oh, candy corn, yeah.
I do like candy corn.
I do too, but I don't like it better than jelly beans.
Like if I'm going like candy corn versus Peeps, I'm probably going candy corn.
Well, sure. Who isn't?
I don't know.
Because Peeps, again, are not the best.
Well, that's not true. But
you're like, stop saying that, Becca.
But I would give it to Easter. I think they do have the better candy.
It's just delicious candy.
Yeah. I think it wins the day.
And honestly, just sort of in general, Easter is just a really fun holiday. Yeah. I mean, the food's good.
Yeah. We had some deviled eggs.
I was going to say, did you have deviled eggs?
We did.
Do you devil the eggs that you dye?
You're asking the wrong person.
Okay, so you...
Actually, no, we did, because some of them were blue.
Okay.
So, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we did have some blue deviled eggs this year.
And egg dyeing in general is
it's
just
very
fun.
Duke of us.
I think egg dyeing is fun. It's messy, but that's okay. Easter egg hunting is super fun.
Yep.
It's a good time.
Good time.
Okay.
But hey, you know what? It's the whole season of Easter. People, we got to remember this. We are in the season of Easter. So I guess technically we could still be doing Easter egg hunts. And
we will still be at our house.
Eating Easter candy.
So
did not end on Sunday. It began on Sunday.
Shout out to Samuel, who very slowly is still opening all of his eggs. I still have some I haven't hidden.
What?
Because he likes to open it, and then like the ones he got from church have toys.
Oh my gosh.
And so he's been taking his time to enjoy them before he opens another egg.
Wow. Bless him.
I know. The restraint on my 3-year-old is impressive.
That is impressive.
Although he did take way more eggs than he was allotted. So he was supposed to take 20, but he knew his mom was distracted. So he filled up that basket. I tried to steal some back from him.
That's funny.
So yeah, we had a great Easter.
Yeah, we did.
Holy Week and Easter weekend, and a lot of things happened. So we're gonna do our best to concisely talk about it all.
Yeah.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Buckle up. All right, let's get into it. Well, I'm Becca. I'm the pastor of Family Ministries here at Katy First.
And I'm Mark. I'm the senior pastor at Katy First.
Welcome to the Katy First Family Podcast, where we offer ideas, inspiration, and encouragement to help you and your family grow as joyful disciples of Jesus Christ. And this week we are talking about all things Holy Week and Easter. Mm-hmm. It was great. The end.
We're still recovering.
I don't know if this is appropriate to say or not, so maybe forgive me. I feel like a little bit like I have a Holy Week hangover. Like I'm just still really tired.
Yeah. But it was great. It was wonderful. We had a wonderful Monday, Thursday service in the Family Life Center.
Nice.
A very nice Good Friday service, both really good.
Yeah, and both a little different than what we've done.
Different than, and a great Easter Sunday.
Yeah, just
despite the rain, we didn't let the rain slow us down.
No, it did not keep us from celebrating, but it was sort of epic. I need to share that photo I took of you. So we had sunrise service, and it was really special. There was a lot going on behind the scenes, and by behind the scenes, I basically mean behind Mark's back.
Behind my back that I had no clue.
I mean this very literally, because Mark is up preaching, and while you are preaching, a woman comes to the birthing center that's on the corner there, right behind by the Rylander lot. Mm-hmm. She comes in very obviously in labor. I got a little nervous for her about making it into the birthing center. Mm-hmm. Bicyclists came by, and it had been a gross kind of morning as well, sort of
threatening rain
and cloudy, real cloudy. So we weren't going to get to see the sunrise. And as you are preaching, this beautiful, cool breeze comes through, pushes those clouds out of the way, and they open up behind you. And we had this really pretty orange sunrise. It was really nice.
Yeah.
And then we started to get set up for the egg hunt. Mm-hmm. Super fun. Put the sound system up. Got a little drizzly, so we thought, well, we'll protect the sound system, which is good because just about the time we got the sound system protected, it started to pour down rain, and I had to go rescue you.
I was stuck
from the playground with an umbrella.
Yeah.
Had the egg hunt in the gym. Super fun. And then our 11 o'clock service, which was packed. Crazy.
Great service. Yeah.
We talked about death all throughout. Doesn't that sound fun? We talked about death.
Wonk, wonk.
We talked about moving from death to life all throughout Lent. And so here it was, the big one, the death of death.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there was a lot. So you preached from 1 Corinthians.
Yeah. Yeah. So, 1 Corinthians and Luke.
Right. Obviously, you did also tell the Easter story.
Yes.
We didn't just pretend it didn't happen.
Yeah. So I sort of used in Luke's version of the Easter, the disciples respond to the women's testimony of resurrection that it's just an idle tale, and just sort of use that as a launching off point. of like that perhaps maybe that's the appropriate reaction to something as big as resurrection if we're taking resurrection seriously. That maybe at first we want it to be too good to be true, too unbelievable, because if it were too believable, I'm not sure is this the big thing that we're really talking about. So kind of use that as just like a launching point into why was resurrection a big deal thing. And so the kind of complementary text in the lectionary for this Sunday of Easter is in 1 Corinthians out of chapter 15, where Paul is saying a lot about resurrection. One bit of it is that if there is no resurrection, all this is really just useless. But then he goes on and talks about why this resurrection is a big deal. We kind of bit off quite a bit because there's quite a bit packed into it, but kind of like we've been saying the whole way, I wanted to keep echoing what have been saying, that Paul's not just like presenting an idea, like a doctrinal statement, believe in the resurrection. Certainly that's something that he wants people to believe, but not just something that they have their theological checkbox. Okay, I'm in because, yes, I believe in the resurrection. But that, like all other theology, it was driving the way they lived and how they saw the world and the hope and the courage that they had. It was the deeper why that impacted everything else about their life. And so not just an idea, but as we've said, this whole way, a way of life. So just leaned into a lot of that, walked through a lot of, first fruits of resurrection, how he talks about, he kind of grounds it in this language of creation. And had talked about, I'd heard N.T. Wright say that, resurrection makes sense if you believe in a good creation and a good creator. And how if you look around, you see a world that's got issues, brokenness, whatever language you put on that. If God's a bad creator, God can't do anything about it. Resurrection doesn't make sense. If creation itself is bad, but God is good, resurrection doesn't make sense either, because there's no need for Jesus to become like us, to renew, restore. God can just start over and do a whole new thing. Yeah. Different thing. But our scriptures tell us that God comes in Jesus to be with us, that we are part of the good creation that God wants to help set right. Resurrection is the way that happens. And so kind of walk through that, and then ultimately how that leads to the death of death, that in due time all the enemies of Christ are put under Christ's feet, and resurrection is the ultimate display of this new thing that God is doing. And again, wanted to tie that back to this whole season we've been in, where we've been talking about from death to life. That is tied to all the things we've been talking about, the death of scarcity and status quo and little truths and that sort of thing. And we don't evade these things. The cross is the thing that shows us we go through it. But in going through it, especially on the other side of Easter, we go through it knowing death of death. Paul himself says, I die every day. Why do I do that? Because resurrection. We trust in this. So again, it's not just an idea. Yeah. Not just a thing I have to go, yes, that happened. That makes me a Christian because I say that happened. What makes us like Christ is we trust.
So you mean it's not just a good idea that we believe, but it's a way of life that we live? Yep. Sorry.
Just to keep echoing it. Yeah,
but it's true.
For sure. That was, and I wanted that essential message. Yeah. To essentially say, that's exactly what I think is happening here. Yeah.
I think that's really good.
So yeah, it was kind of bringing a lot of those things together. I'm like going through my notes here and seeing what big things I could be missing. But that's kind of big, Ed. The big
that was
sort
good.
Of culminating.
I think it's a lot, right? To take all of these, to go all through this journey of all these little deaths, they lead us to this ultimate death. But what does it mean to live resurrected? And I think that it's easy, and that could probably go a lot of ways, however you want to interpret that, to see resurrection as this thing that happened one time to one person in one particular way, and that it has great consequences for all of us, but it's not something that's still happening. It's very different to believe that resurrecting power is actually the cornerstone of all creation.
Yeah.
And that's, it's a powerful thing. For me, one of the things I took away from Sunday was this idea that God gets right in the middle of it as a good God. This is one of the things we've talked about a lot in this podcast, is that what we want to do as families, specifically, is introduce our children, our young people, to who God is, so that they can get to know God and decide for themselves if this God is worth being in relationship with, right? And they can't do that if God is a foreign concept to them. They have no idea who God is. The point of Scripture is to tell us the nature of God and what that means for us as God's people. And I think the story of resurrection, the story of Easter, and not just Easter. So it's really easy to go from just Easter in of itself is a nice story, but it's all the other stuff too. You understand what I'm saying? No. Okay, then I'll say it differently. I'm saying if you just go straight into, if you're just like, yeah, Jesus died and then he's alive, and isn't his aliveness such good news? Yes, it is. But it's the fact that he was alive and died first that makes that resurrection such good news to me. Mm-hmm. It makes it such good news. Yeah. The fact that God is not a faraway God. The fact that through Christ, God does know what it feels like to suffer bodily, emotionally, mentally. God knows what it's like to lose, like other people too. Right? To live in a world that's not as it should be. Right? And then Christ shows us but all things are being brought back to life. All things are being made right. And to introduce our kids to that story, I think is really powerful. I want Sammy to enjoy the goodness that is chocolate and peanut butter together. But I really want to give him the gift of knowing that that God created and knows him, is never far away from him, and the things in this world that are not right are being made right. Yeah. And that he gets to be a part of that as an invitation, not into service for the sake of prove yourself, but as a extension of love. That we get to be a part of God, making all things right and new, giving all things new life. I think that's really powerful. It's a wild thing. So you started, I don't even know, let's pretend, how far back can we go? Ash Wednesday. We started with the death of despair. And now we've worked all the way to the death of death. Yeah. And I think the bookends of that are pretty strong. How super intentional was that? Did you start with despair specifically because you knew you were ending with Easter, or did it feel like the first thing that had to die in order to talk about these other things? Does this make sense? Does my question make sense? Yeah. No. All the deaths were just driven by the text. Oh, I hate to tell you. So you just let the Bible tell you what to do. Yeah. Well, I say that because there could have been a ton of deaths that we could have talked about. Yeah. Maybe even ones that if I were picking it, would have said these are more important things. So, but it was mainly just going what's the lectionary text, and then what is the death that we could talk about in this one? And so, despair was just the one that seemed to fit Ash Wednesday, and obviously death of death is from this 1 Corinthians text. Yeah. Kind of to elaborate on that, Ash Wednesday thought.
Uh-huh.
When you were talking, actually, I think you hit it harder at sunrise service. So I'm cheating a little bit. Or maybe I had just heard it at sunrise, so it stuck out more. But you talked about specifically how on Ash Wednesday, and you may have to fix how I say it since you have the actual...
I got the notes.
Yeah. But you talked about how on Ash Wednesday we mark our heads with these ashes as these symbols of death, but not... but because we have to go through it.
Yeah.
And I have been really honest about my struggle to remind people of their mortality. And in that moment, and like, I know that Easter's coming and all of that, but it's still always really bothered me. And in that moment, I thought, oh no, I'm not reminding them of their mortality. I'm giving them the invitation to go through it. And I just, for me, that was like a really beautiful, like now I'm kind of excited next year for Ash Wednesday to see how different that will feel. I'm not telling you you're going to die. I'm telling you you're going to go through death.
Yeah.
You're going to pass through it. And I think that for me is like, that was a really encouraging thought.
Yeah.
Anyway, you're like, yeah, Becca, that was the whole point. Where were you at that class? They told us that. You missed that one too.
You missed that day in class.
Why weren't you there for that?
No, I think that's true. Yeah, I like that too. I mean, I think for sure that does reframe it a lot. Even just hearing you re-say it back to me that way, I would agree.
I think we're both tired. Can we say that? Can we say that? This is maybe not our most coherent podcast, but
yeah, we didn't have any show notes on this one.
Well, because your girl's tired, and I think I blacked out. I'm pretty sure we made it to the Easter egg hunt, and then I was like, oh, I'm done. Yeah. But I also, one of the things that stood out to me that just through the whole of the weekend, Monday, Thursday, Good Friday, Holy Saturday, and then Easter Sunday, was just this idea of the worst thing could happen and we don't have to be afraid of that. I sort of live in that mentality, and I know, I don't know, maybe, I think I would say it's probably more a mom thing than a dad thing, but it may not be that specific. So you can correct me and I will accept that correction.
Yeah. I won't let you be sexist on this show.
Thank you. Call me out. I can, in an instant, walk through a scenario all the way to the worst possible conclusion, especially when it comes to like my kids' safety or, you know what I'm saying? So, I think most moms have imagined how they would save their child from drowning if they were on the Titanic. Why we do this, I don't know, but I promise you moms have thought of this. We all have this, like, what do we, if the worst thing happens, you know, that horrible phone call or that horrible diagnosis, or like if the worst thing happens, what then? Does that make sense what I'm saying? Okay. And because in my mind, it can be very real to me in the moment, that like anxiety, right? And that fear. So to have a faith that's a way that I live that tells me, okay, the worst thing really could happen. Like it doesn't happen to other people. It happens to everybody. Does that make sense? The worst thing could happen, and still God is with us, and God will take these worst things, these horrible things, and I do believe somehow it is redeemed. It's not magic. It's grace, and it turns into something good. It makes it a little, in the moment when I'm just afraid, I can remind myself of that. Yeah. But more than that, it gives me, I want to put this like coherently. I'm struggling, as you can see. It's more than just something I believe. It allows me to take the next step. Yeah. Trusting that like I'm not doing it alone. And it's not, it feels like whatever the opposite of false hope is. Just regular hope. What is the opposite of false hope? But do you know what I mean? Where you kid yourself and go, well, it'll be okay. And you just sort of shrug your shoulders and keep going.
Yeah. I mean, reasonable hope, trusted hope. I mean, I think there's like something that's like, it's not blind hope. Like you have a good reason and a good ground for this hope.
Because I've seen it.
Yeah.
And sort of, I guess that's kind of what I'm trying to push towards is when you talked about idle tale, or it is my experience that tells me that horrible things can happen. And on the other end of it, it becomes fertile ground for good things.
Yeah. No, I agree. So let me first say, I think both genders.
Do you do that? Have you ever thought about how you would save Miley and Phoebe from drowning on the Titanic?
No, I mean, that, may be located to you, but...
I think you waited till I took a sip of my tea. That almost became a microphone issue.
I mean, this is sort of the same thing, some call that like foreboding joy.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
I've heard that phrase
that's
before.
That's a very real thing for all people. I think different personalities certainly have this. I mean, and this isn't the same thing, but like if I can't get a hold of Hannah after like 3 phone calls, how quickly your mind goes to...
In a ditch.
It's like they're gone and this is going to happen. And then you're like 20 years down the road because they didn't answer the phone call 3 times in a row.
Yes,
like,
100%.
It must be gone. So, I think...
Foreboding joy, that is what it's called.
I think... I was listening back to the sermon and I said something that I probably would have said different on a second round. But it was, talking about resurrection. Is this something, a future hope or a present hope? It's both things. And then I think the way I framed it in the sermon is I don't know a lot about that future hope thing other than what the Bible says, and sort of moved on. There's a lot more to probably say about that. But I do know, like a lot of us, I do know what it is to experience this pattern in real life.
Yeah.
And to trust it enough to be able to say to you, like, if your world, the way into this sermon, if your world feels like Saturday and not Easter Sunday, I can't convince you, maybe, that resurrection, but I can tell you, trust it. Like, just trust in this resurrection thing. I can't convince you of something, but I can tell you from experience it's worth trusting, and that together we may be in sort of a Holy Saturday world. I know resurrection will come for us in big and in more personal ways. So, I think that's certainly a reality. I always think about people who, when you show up on Easter, because it is such a joyful day. But that doesn't pause like the real life of someone's life just because it's Easter. Like, how do you receive such a joyful day when it doesn't feel like joy?
Or like, what's the point? Sometimes I think so. Like, if you're somebody who is hearing this story and you're like, okay, but then why? Like, if it could just be fixed. Why isn't it just fixed? And there's lots of theological answers to that. But I think the real piece of that, and maybe I'm wrong, is that there's really awful things that do happen. Real loss, real sorrow, real injustice, real trauma, real despair even. And all of those things happen. And that's just as much the world we live in as real joy and real beauty and wonder and all of these other things. And so what do we do with who is God? And I just feel like Easter Sunday and Holy Week together so beautifully encapsulate the nature and heart of God.
I would say I appreciate more and more the movement Monday, Thursday, Good Friday to Easter Sunday. With meaning I don't run too quickly to the good news.
Yeah.
Or the just the joy, I guess, of Easter.
Yeah.
I think there's all good news in all of it.
Yeah, I know what you meant.
Because we need that journey.
Because it's honest.
And I think if we just show up on Easter with great joy, we've done what I said Jesus didn't do. We've sort of evaded the cross and we've sort of set above suffering.
Yeah.
And there is something about going through this stuff that allows us to, I think, find this deeper joy and trust that maybe isn't as real bright, but it's way more grounded and true.
Yeah.
And I think that's when this Easter stuff really takes hold into our life and keeps moving us forward.
Yeah. Friday night, we read the scripture.
Mm-hmm.
So Julie Spear and I took turns.
Mm-hmm.
And I was reading from Matthew, I think, towards the end.
Mm-hmm.
The very end, the second to last station 11, Jesus is buried in the tomb. And I had read through it, obviously, but I'm reading it, I'm standing up there and, trying to do the thing where you are really like soaking it in and like trying to put some inflection in, and especially because this is the last one, like I got to make it good, right? And as I'm reading, there's a part where they take Jesus's body down, and it says, and they wrapped him in linen. And immediately my brain goes, oh, just like from Luke, where Mary gives birth, from Luke 2, Mary gives birth, she wraps him in a cloth. And I had this like parallel image, which for some reason this season has been a lot of that for me. I'm seeing a lot of echoes. Anyway, it doesn't matter. And I had this like, I almost started to cry. And I was like, hold it together, because then no one's going to understand what I'm saying. Not because it's not a proper response.
Yeah.
And because I thought like of just how real that is.
Yeah.
It was a real person at a real place and time who was both born and loved and wrapped in cloth and like swaddled as a baby and wrapped in a shroud at his death. And like, I mean, just what a gift that is. And I don't want to rush. I mean, the distance between when we celebrate Christmas and when we celebrate Easter is not very long, but the life in between all of that, Jesus's life in between all that, is such a gift. Not just his death and resurrection. I get it, like those are critical, but all of it, such a gift, and a gift we get invited into. For a minute, it just really like, it just sort of floored me for a second.
Yeah.
The way that God would choose to feel all of those things. And through choosing them, blesses them somehow. It was astounding.
Yeah.
It felt like in that moment, this like really powerful gift of, it felt like a lot of grief. Don't get me wrong, because I always think about, I love Mary, and I just thought about his mom. I just felt bad for her. She would probably tell me to suck it up, buttercup. She was okay. But it is tough. I don't know. This has gotten off the rails, I guess. I had this really visceral reaction to like what a gift being alive is.
Yeah.
And even what a gift to go through it all.
Yeah.
And go through it all, like
you
said in your sermon, through all the way through resurrection, to live that way all the time.
Yeah. No, I had a similar sort of kind of on Good Friday, as we intermix Psalm 22 in there.
Yeah.
That we paused in the Psalm where he's crying out for help. And then we read 2 stations where he's crucified and he dies.
Yeah.
And then we waited to come back for Psalm 22 at the end, and that's the part of the rescue.
Saying to a people yet unborn that he has done it. It's my
and
favorite
like reading
part.
that was that kind of got me too.
Yeah.
Just hearing those words and the kind of praise that also is on the mind of Christ on the cross.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was just a lot from the whole weekend, and also there's just a lot in this. And so I say that to say we're going into this next worship series called Inspiring Faith. Inspiring Faith. Okay, thank you. And I'm excited about it, but I feel like it's such a beautiful way to like move into, because we've just talked about we're moving from death to life.
Yeah.
So now let's like fully live into that.
Yeah. Yeah. So like, we're actually going to pick up. So I'm going to reread verse 12, which is where we stopped, where Peter goes into the tomb and with wonder he leaves.
Yeah.
And then we'll read the Emmaus walk story. And next week is on wonder. And what I like, or I want to hope in this series is, one, it's, if Lent was a season of death, this series will be more of a creative, fun, vibrant series. But that also, it's going to, I hope, sort of get us into faith, God, theology, not through just logic, but through wonder and beauty and things that we can sometimes say are side doors or maybe secondary ways of understanding God. But, maybe they're just ignored primary doors or ones that we think are less important than well-framed theological boxes or deeply studied scripture. At the tomb, nobody knew what was going on. They were just full of wonder and amazement. And sometimes I think that's being able to return to that invitation. You can't create wonder and amazement, but you can, I think, be more open to it. So
I'm excited about it.
Me too. I'm
excited about the whole series. So, well, there's been a lot, and somehow I feel like also not enough, because I don't know how you sum up all of Holy Week and Easter.
You don't. You just come back to it every year.
You just keep doing it, which is why we do this. That's why we do this.
Yeah.
But we hope that in this conversation and this ongoing conversation that you have found some inspiration and encouragement for yourself and for your family. If you'd like to get our weekly podcast delivered directly to you, you can subscribe or follow us on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or Spotify. For more information about Katy First and upcoming events for your family, visit our website at katyfirst.org. Mostly, we want you to know this, that in the middle of your ordinary, messy life, whatever that looks like for you in this moment, that you are not alone, you are doing a good job, and you are so, so loved.
And we'd love to see you on Sunday as we get this new series started. Hey, I will say, though, we are starting some new studies.
Yes!
And they're great. They're on Tuesday. It's only 3 of them. One's in the day. 2 of them are on Tuesday night. I will say at least one of them, Surprised by Hope. I don't know if you ever read that book by N.T. Wright.
I haven't.
It's really great.
That's the one that's happening during the day, 9:30 to 11 on Tuesdays?
I think so.
I'm pretty sure, because I was interested in it, and I was like, well, I can't because I have to work. I have a staff meeting.
But it's great. And in fact, probably a lot of what I said is in that book, because I got a lot of my theology around it is what N.T. Wright says. And it's a lot of talk about resurrection.
Yeah.
Life after death.
Okay.
Some people might call that heaven. But yeah, I mean, so if you want to like more deeply wrestle with like resurrection and whatever is after death, it'll blow your mind in some ways.
Oh,
yeah, it's a good book.
That sounds exciting.
I recommend it. But all our studies are good, and they'll get started next week, so you got plenty of time to get signed up.
Yeah. This Sunday is also Confirmation Sunday.
Yeah.
So come see our students who are being confirmed, who have walked through all of this themselves and have decided that they want to be a part of the church at large, and also specifically Katy First.
Next week, we'll talk about that quite a bit next week.
What it means to be confirmed? Yeah. Let's do it.
Maybe we could have some
students.
We're brainstorming right here.
Here it is.
I just looked
this
at the
camera. This is our process.
As
Would you guys like to be in this? We're so serious. Yeah. See if we can get some of them up here to talk.
Yeah.
Okay.
That'd be a good idea.
They're chatty, so I'm sure you could.
Yeah. Okay. Have a good week.
Have a great week.